And there's a lot of people in the US that still don't know that GDPR applies to them, just like people inside the EU. So the key here is processing EU resident data is the key, and it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. The GDPR is going to apply to you if you are indeed collecting and processing this type of data.
Thank you, Tim. And let me turn to Francisco. GDPR has indeed prompted the industry to be creative around thinking about its compliance as an industry as a whole, and also helping the customer think about what they have to do for their part. CISPE has developed a code of conduct on data protection. Could you, Francisco, tell us a little bit about what CISPE is, what the acronym stands for, what's the identity of the organization and its members, and what is this code of conduct all about? Thanks.
Sure. If I have the microphone, it will help me. Thank you. Cloud Infrastructure Service Provider in Europe. That's the acronym for CISPE. CISPE is a trade association which currently comprises over 27 cloud infrastructure service providers across Europe. The majority of companies are European. There's a large group of also small and medium-sized enterprises. Amazon is part of the group, and I think we have 2 other small-size, medium-sized American companies. In total, these companies operate over 15 data centers across Europe, so it's significant. And as of today, if my arithmetics are not all mixed up, these companies have declared compliance with the CISPE Code of Conduct on GDPR Code of Conduct for about 69 different cloud infrastructure services.
So about the code of conduct, so we had some kind of certifications, code of conduct for many years now on EU level as well on member state level. So what is the difference with code of conduct with GDPR?
To my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong because you're more the expert than me, there is no GDPR compliance scheme in place for cloud infrastructure services as of today. The code of conduct in that sense is unique, because it's designed and tailored to infrastructure services under the GDPR. Now, the compliance with that code of conduct will require and will also in many instances correspond to some of the existing international certification. Many of the controls, security controls in particular in certifications such as ISO 2701, 17, 18, or the German C5 to take an example, are covered in the CISPE Code of Conduct, but with differences because these certifications were not originally designed for GDPR compliance purposes. So that's, I would say, a difference.
Compliance is a shared responsibility, and this is why you want to deal with cloud service providers that help you build that chain of trust that your auditors are going to look for. And so with AWS, we already have this very, very rich set of services that already are compliant with and certified on ISO 27001, 27018, 27017. The gold standard that you want to look for in a cloud service provider when it comes to compliance is the SOC 2 Type 2 certification. Because unlike a lot of the other certifications that are sort of checkboxes, we do this, we do that, that one actually has an auditor sitting in your data center for 6 months watching you manage the service and making sure you're managing it the way you say you're managing it in documentation. The key here, I think, with GDPR is to realize that it's not a checklist approach to compliance like maybe some of the other controls that you've done in the past with regard to, let's say, PCI. I'll pick on that, right? So there's no list of controls that you specifically have to have, even if they don't make any sense for you. The issue with GDPR, the challenge with GDPR, and probably the advantage of GDPR from a data protection perspective is that you have to come up with a strategy that works for your organization. And so many times I'll talk to customers and say, these organizations are all like a snowflake, right? They're unique. So having a checklist approach to that uniqueness doesn't make a whole lot of sense in many cases. And 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it'll make even less sense as the threat landscape continues to evolve. And so you need to have a strategy, and then you need to have tactics that support that strategy.